Welcome back, learners. I hope you rested well. I hope you had a quick, nice rest. Let's continue. Now we are looking at conversion. Conversion is a method used to express units of measurement in the required SI units. An example is the distance between two towns is measured in kilometers, but it can also be expressed in meters and centimeters. Another example can be when you buy a bag of maize meal. It is normally measured in kilograms. So when it's measured in kilograms, but it does not mean that you cannot buy milligrams that can be measured in grams, or you can express the weight of that millimil in grams. Then we convert using the metric system. Let's look at our metric system. A metric system is a system of basic units of measurement referred to as the International System of Units. These are the units that we use in South Africa. So we use, for length and distance, we use kilometers as our basic units of measuring distance. We also have hectometers, we also have decameters, we have meters, we have decimeters, centimeters, and millimeters. Some of these type of units we hardly ever hear of, but it doesn't mean that they do not exist. So it means in general we've got about 7 units that we can express any unit of distance and length. For an example, we have kilometers, that's number 1. We have hectometers, number 2, decameters, 3, meters, 4, decimeters, 5, centimeters, 6, and millimeters, 7. Now, I have a mnemonic that I use to make it easy for learners to actually be able to convert between the different SI units. I use the mnemonic that says, Keke hates doing maths during cold months. The focus is on the maths because the basic unit for length is actually meters. So the maths, it's maths during cold months. So what does that mean? This means that whenever we are moving from one unit to another, we have to then either multiply or divide by the number of times that you are moving from each unit. For an example, if I'm to move from my kilometers to my hectometers, I will have to multiply by 10 because I'm moving from a big unit to a smaller unit. So when I'm moving from a big unit to a smaller unit, I multiply by 10. So it means for each and every unit that I'll be moving, I'll be multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10, multiplying by 10 up until I get to the last one. So an example would be if I am to move from my kilometers now to my meters, so it means it's from kilometer to meter. How many units am I moving? It's 1, 2, 3. So it means it's going to be 1, 10, another 10, and another 10. So it actually is 1,000 to move from kilometers to meters. Then now, if I'm moving now from a small unit to a big unit, then I'll have to divide by the number of times that I'm moving between the units. So just an example is if I'm moving from my millimeters to my centimeters, then it means I'll have to divide by 100. So from big to small, we multiply. From small to big, we divide. Then each and every unit we divide by 10. So when we are converting from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, you multiply by the conversion factor. What is the conversion factor? It is the number of times that you are moving between the units. An example is if you convert 5 centimeters to millimeters, centimeter to millimeter, it's a big unit to a small unit. Then what do we do when we move from a big to a small? We multiply by how many units? By 10. So we're going to have 5 multiplied by 10, which gives us 50 millimeters. Converting from a smaller unit now to a big unit, you divide by the conversion factor. An example is if you move from 5 meters to kilometers. We said Keke hates doing maths during cold months. So where are we moving from the maths to the kilometers? So where you begin, you put a 0, then you put you put a 1 and zeros up until where you are ending. But we are dividing. So it means we divide by 1,000, which gives us 0.5 kilometers. Then let's move on to the practice questions. We say convert the following. 530 centimeter to millimeter. So when you get to an examination, when you're writing paper 2, then what do? You first write your mnemonic, which is Keke hates doing maths during cold months, so that you can easily remember how do I move from a certain unit to another. So now we are moving from centimeters, here is our centimeters, to our meters, here is our meter. So from centimeter to meter is from small to big. So what do? You put a 1 where you are from, then you put zeros up until where you're going, then you divide because it's from small to big. So it means 530 will be divided by, we say 530 divided by 100. Then you take it, you punch your calculator. 530 divided by 100, what does it give us? It gives us 5.3 meters. It means 530 centimeters can be expressed as 5.3 meters. The next question says, convert 12.5 kilometers to meters. Kilometer to meter. So it's from big to small. Where we start, we put a 1 and with zeros up until where we're going, but we are multiplying this time around. So you're going to say 12.5 multiplied by 1,000. Then you take your calculator. Let's do it together. 12.5 multiplied by 1,000. It gives us 12,500 meters. So 12.5 kilometers can be expressed as 12.5 meters. Then we go to the next question, 370 millimeters to meters. From millimeter to meter, it's from small to big. So we put a 1 and zeros under each and every unit up until where we're going to. So it means we divide by 1,000. So we're going to say 370 divided by 1,000, which gives us, take your calculator, let's do it. 370 divided by 1,000, it gives us 0.37 meters. So it means 370 millimeters can be expressed in meters as 0.3 meters. Then the last one says 65 centimeter to meters. It's the same as the first one, right? If you can recall, we have centimeter to meter, centimeter to meter. So you put a 1 and zeros up until where you end, but you divide. So we're going to say 65 divided by 100, which gives us 0.65. You can do it on your calculator. 65 divided by 100, it gives us 0.65 meters. Okay, now remember we were doing the metric system for length and distance. Now we are doing the metric system for mass and weight. Metric system is still the same basic units that we use in measuring certain things. Then now we have, just to note, when we are dealing with the metric system for mass and weight, we must note that 1 ton is equal to 1,000 kilograms. Where do we normally use tons? Whenever they're measuring the weight of, for an elephant, an example, the weight of a buffalo. So normally they use tons instead of kilograms because it's more than 1,000 kilograms. Then now we are still using the very same cake, the very same mnemonic. It will only change from the basic because the basic for mass and weight is grams. So now Keke hates doing geography during cold months. Why the geography? Because the basic unit of measuring mass or weight is grams. So that is why we're using geography instead of the maths. Remember, with the previous one, we said math because it is for meters, so M for meters. So now we are using G for grams. So the same concept is used. We have kilograms, we have hectograms, we have decagrams, we've got grams, we've got decigrams, centigrams, and milligrams. Just like I said with the previous one, that some of these SI units you've never heard of or you hardly ever hear of, but this is the units that exist and we will use at some point. For an example, with milligrams, whenever they're measuring pills are so small. So you'd find that the measurement of a pill, the weight of a pill would be in milligrams, but we don't deal with measuring a pill, we only deal with the consumption rate of it, but the measuring of it will be measured in milligrams. So when we move from a unit to another, just like we did, we are multiplying. If ever it's from big to small. So when you're moving from your kilograms to your hectograms, you will multiply by the conversion factor, which is 10 because you're only moving 1 unit apart. Then from hectograms to deca is 10. From deca to grams, it's 10. From grams to deci, it's 10. From deci to centi, it's 10. And from centi to milli, it's also 10. When we are moving from big to small, you multiply. Then when you're moving from small to big, now you will divide by the conversion factor as well. Then this is an example. When we're converting from a bigger unit to a smaller unit, you multiply by the conversion factor. An example would be if you move from grams to milligrams. Where is our grams? Here is our grams. We are going to milligrams. Grams to milligrams is from big to small. So what do? We multiply by the conversion factor. What is the conversion factor? How many units are you moving? 1, 2, 3. So you multiply by 1,000, you get 5,000 milligrams. When you are converting from smaller unit to a bigger unit, now you divide by the conversion factor. So an example is when you're moving from grams to kilograms, we're using KK again. KK hates doing geography during cold months. So we are moving from grams, which is our geography, to kilograms, which is our K. Where we start, we put a 1, and then we've got zeros up until where we're going. Then we divide by what? By 1,000, and it gives us 0.5 kilograms. Then now let's do these questions. How many grams are there in 4 kilograms? You write your KK again. You say KK hates doing geography during cold months. So we are moving from grams. We want to find how many grams do we have in kilograms. So we say kilograms to grams. Now where we start, we put a 1, then we've got zeros up until where we're going. It means we are multiplying. So we're going to say 4 multiplied by 1,000, which gives us 4,000 grams. So it means we've got 4,000 grams in a kilogram. Then question 2 says convert 35 tons to grams. Now remember, we said 1 ton is equals to 1,000 kilograms. So it did not give us that 1 ton is equal to so many grams. It only gave us that 1 ton is equal to so many kilograms. But we know that we can convert from kilograms to grams. So what do we start with? We'll start by taking it to the known, then we go to the unknown. For an example, we have 35. It's going to be 35 tons. We'll convert it to kilograms because 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms. So we're going to say 35 multiplied by 1,000, which gives us 35,000. You just add the zeros to the 35, right, which is 3 of the zeros. This gives us 35 what? Kilograms. Then we have to convert our kilograms to grams now. Then from kilograms to grams, this is our kilograms, 2 grams. It means we multiply by 1,000. So we have to multiply the kilograms by 1,000. You take your calculator. It means you add the 3 zeros again. So you can simply do it without even punching your calculator. You have 35,000 by how many zeros as well? By another 3 zeros, because 1 times multiplied by 35,000 will give us 35,000. So we only add the zeros, which is 3 zeros. Then it means we have 35 million grams in 35 tons. Then 5,000 to kilograms. 5,000 grams to kilograms. We are moving from grams to kilograms. You put a 1 there, and then you put zeros up until where you're going. Then it means we are dividing by 1,000. So we'll say 5,000 divided by 1,000. These zeros are going to cancel each other. We've got 3 this side. We also have 3 this side. So 5 divided by 1 will give us 5 kilograms. So there are 5 kilograms in 5,000 grams. Then we've got 3.1 milligram to kilograms. From a milligram to a kilogram, it means you will put a 1 here, then you put zeros up until where you are going. So how many zeros do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We know 6 zeros gives us a million. So it means we're going to say 3.1 multiplied by 1 million. 3.1 multiplied by 1 million. So what does it give us? Maybe you might be confused by the decimal point, so we can do it on your calculator. You say 3.1 times 1 and 6 zeros. Do not forget, punch 6 zeros. Then it gives us 31 million. So it means it just moved the decimal point away, and then it gave us 31 million. So you've got 31 million kilograms. Then now we move on to the metric for volume. The metric for volume, we are still using the very same concept of metric system, whereby we use the very same mnemonic. It's just that the only thing that will change will be the basic unit. So the basic unit for volume, as we define volume, that it is the three-dimensional space that is occupied by an object. So the basic unit of volume is liters, because when you measure, when you buy milk, you buy it in liters. When you buy a bottle of water, is in liters. So that is the basic unit of volume. So now the mnemonic has changed only on the liter part. So we say Keke hates doing LO for life orientation during cold months. So we've got the math, we've got the geography, and we've got the LO. So the LO is when we are dealing with volume, the math is when we are dealing with length and distance, and the geography is when we are dealing with mass and weight. So when we are converting from small unit to a big unit, then we also multiply by the conversion factor. When we are moving from a small unit to a big unit, you divide by the conversion factor. An example is convert 5 liters to milliliters. So how many milliliters do we have in 5 liters? We are moving from milliliter to, we are moving from 5 liters, we are moving from liters to milliliters. So you put a 1 up until where you're going, so it's 1000. So it means you multiply by 1,000 and you get 5,000 milliliters in 5 liters. Then when you're converting from a smaller unit to a bigger unit, then you divide by the conversion factor. An example is if you are converting 500,000 milliliters to kiloliters, you write your Keke. You say Keke hates doing LO during cold months. Where are we moving from our milliliters? We're going to our kiloliters. You put a 1, then zeros up until where you end. Then it means you divide by a million, because it's 6 zeros. So 500,000 divided by 1 million, it gives us 0.5 kiloliters. Then let's do this together. We've got 287 liters to milliliters. Write your Keke down so that it makes it easy for you to remember what you are dealing with. Keke hates doing LO during cold months. Then we are moving from liters to milliliters. Here is our liters. We are going to milliliters. We put a 1 and zeros up until where we go. Then we multiply. Then it means we're going to say 287 multiplied by 1,000. We've got 3 zeros and a 1. So 1 multiplied by 287 will give you 287. And then we just add the 0. So some of this you can do without using your calculator. Then we've got 287,000 milliliters in 287 liters. Let's convert 550 kiloliters to milliliters. 550 kiloliters to milliliters. Kilo to milli. So we add 1 and zeros up until where we are going. So this time around we are multiplying by a million. So we'll say 550 multiplied by 1 million. As long as there's zeros involved, then it makes it easy for everyone. So 1 multiplied by 550 gives us 550. Then we are left with what? With 6 zeros that we have to add. Then you just put in your zeros there, which gives us 550 million milliliters in 550 kiloliters. The last question, we have 400 milliliters to liters. We are moving from milli to liter. So you put a 1 and zeros up until where you end. So you are dividing. So you say 400 divided by 1,000. Then now, because the other number is larger than the other number, but in a nutshell, you just say 0 and 0 will cancel 0. Then we've got 4 divided by 10, which gives us 0.4. It's going to give us a decimal point because 4 is smaller than 10. So it gives us 0.4 liters. You can punch on your calculator and confirm. The next question, we are converting 9.29 liters to kiloliters. 9.29 liters. We're moving from liter to kiloliter. You put a 1 from liter and zeros up until you get to kiloliter, but we are also dividing. So we're going to say 9.29 divided by 1,000. Let's use the calculator. You say 9.29 divided by 1,000, which gives us 0.00929 kiloliters. Now we've got also metric volume now when baking, conversions when baking. When we are baking, normally we would bake using cups, teaspoons, tablespoons, but in actual fact, they mean something when it comes to the metric system of units. So 1 cup is equivalent to 250 milliliters, 1 teaspoon is equivalent to 5 milliliters, and 1 tablespoon is equivalent to 15 milliliters. And then also note these abbreviation that TSP will stand for teaspoon and TBS will stand for tablespoon. Now let's convert using these conversions when baking. How many milliliters of vanilla essence will be required if a recipe calls for 3 teaspoons? The recipe says to us 1 teaspoon is equals to 5 milliliters. So if we have 3, now this is our conversion factor. If we now require 3 teaspoons, normally say you divide this by the same unit. So we'll divide it by 1 teaspoon. Sorry, I wrote B there, it should be a P. So we'll divide this by 1 teaspoon because for every single teaspoon there are 5 milliliters. So how many milliliters do we have in 3 teaspoons? So you divide by a teaspoon as well, then you multiply by the unit that is not the same, which is in milliliters. So that the teaspoon and the teaspoon will divide and give us 1. Then we've got 3 divided by 1 is a 3. Then that 3 will multiply the 5 milliliters. So what is 3 times 5? It gives us 15. It's got 5, 10, 15. So it's 15 milliliters. So it means the recipe will require 15 milliliters of this baking, this vanilla essence. All right. Then question 2 says, calculate the number of full cups needed to bake cookies from a 3,375 milliliter bag of flour. So full cups, we want to calculate cups. You write your conversion factor down. You say 1 cup is equals to 250 milliliters. This is your conversion factor. Then what do you do with this conversion factor? Now we are checking what are we actually calculating, the number of cups. So we want the number of cups at the end. So it means we'll say this 375 milliliters and check on our conversion factor. Which number can we divide it by? We can divide it by 250 milliliters because they have the same units. So we divide by 250 milliliters, then we multiply by what? By this 1 cup. Because the answer we want at the end should be in cups. Milliliter and milliliter is going to divide and give us a 1. Then now we are calculating 3375 divided by 250. What are you getting? I'm getting 13.5. It's 13.5 only. Then you multiply it by 1 cup, which will give us 13.5 cups. But the question required us to give the number of full cups. Now, if it's 13.5, it means the other cup is not full. The 0.5, it means the cup is not actually full, but there is something in that cup. So we only need this 13 cups. So it means we need 13 cups, 13 full cups. Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll continue afterwards.